Troubleshooting ground fault circuit interrupter, or GFCI, issues involves a systematic approach to identify and resolve the problem. Firstly, ensure proper wiring. Verify that the hot wire is connected to the line terminals and the neutral wire is connected to the load terminals and the GFCI. Double-check that the ground wire is securely connected to the grounding screw or bus bar in both the main and sub-panels. Secondly, test the GFCI itself. Press the test button on the GFCI. It should trip and cut off power. If the GFCI doesn't trip, it may be faulty and should be replaced. Thirdly, inspect the circuit. Trace the circuit from the GFCI to the outlet or appliance that is not working. Look for any loose connections or breaks in the wires. Ensure that there are no splices or taps in the circuit before the GFCI. Fourthly, check the grounding system. Inspect the grounding rods or electrodes outside the home. They should be at least 8 feet long and driven deeply into the ground. Check the grounding wires connecting the rods to the main panel and the grounding bus bar inside the panel. Ensure that the grounding wires are properly sized and not damaged. There are other possible causes, for example, a wet or damp environment. Moisture can impair the GFCI's operation. Check for any leaks or dampness near the GFCI or circuit. Another cause could be induced current. Electromagnetic fields from nearby appliances or power lines can interfere with the GFCI's operation. Try unplugging unnecessary appliances and moving the GFCI away from potential sources of interference. Another possible cause could be a defective outlet. Even if the GFCI is working properly, a faulty outlet can prevent it from tripping. Replace the outlet and test the GFCI again. When using a voltmeter to simulate a ground fault, it's essential to understand how a GFCI works and the correct methods for testing it. A GFCI is designed to protect against electrical shock by monitoring the current flowing in the hot and neutral wires of a circuit. If there is an imbalance, indicating that current is leaking to ground, the GFCI trips and cuts off power to the circuit. The typical trip threshold is around 5 milliamps. Simulating a ground fault by connecting a voltmeter between the hot wire and a grounded metal object is one way to test the GFCI's functionality. However, several factors can influence the results and prevent the GFCI from tripping as expected. The internal resistance of the voltmeter plays a significant role. When you connect the voltmeter between the hot wire and ground, you are essentially creating a parallel path for current to flow. The amount of current that flows through this path depends on the resistance of the voltmeter. If the resistance is high, the current flow may be below the GFCI's trip threshold of 5 milliamps. Many modern digital voltmeters have a very high input impedance, typically in the mega-ohms range. This high resistance limits the current flow to a level that the GFCI doesn't detect as a ground fault. To effectively test a GFCI with a voltmeter, you need to ensure that the current flow is sufficient to trigger the GFCI. You can achieve this by adding a resistor in parallel with the voltmeter to lower the overall resistance of the test circuit. A resistor value between 10,000 ohms and 20,000 ohms is generally suitable, but is essential to calculate the expected current flow to ensure it exceeds the GFCI's trip threshold. The formula to calculate the current is current equals voltage divided by resistance. For example, if you are using a 15,000 ohms resistor and the voltage is 120 volts, the current would be 120 volts divided by 15,000 ohms, which equals 0.8 amps or 8 milliamps. This current level should be sufficient to trip the GFCI. When performing this test, connect one lead of the resistor to the hot wire and the other lead to a known good ground, such as a metal water pipe or the grounding conductor in an outlet box. Then, use the voltmeter to measure the voltage between the hot wire and ground to confirm that the circuit is energized. If the GFCI does not trip with this setup, it indicates a potential issue with the GFCI itself or the grounding system. The integrity of the grounding system is crucial for the proper functioning of GFCIs. The grounding system provides a low impedance path for fault current to flow back to the source, allowing the GFCI to detect the imbalance and trip. If the grounding system is compromised, the fault current may be insufficient to trigger the GFCI, even with a low resistance test. Common issues with grounding systems include corroded or loose connections, undersized grounding conductors, and improper bonding of metal components. In your situation, you mentioned that the subpanel wasn't grounded and the water line at the main panel wasn't grounded. This is a significant safety hazard and a likely reason why the GFCI is not tripping as expected. Correcting these grounding issues should be your top priority. Here's how to address these issues. Firstly, ground the subpanel. The subpanel must have a dedicated grounding conductor that runs back to the main panel. This grounding conductor should be sized according to the applicable electrical codes, such as the National Electrical Code, or NEC. Typically, the size of the grounding conductor depends on the size of the circuit conductors feeding the subpanel. Table 250.122 in the NEC provides guidance on the minimum size of equipment grounding conductors for grounding raceway-in equipment. Ensure that the grounding conductor is securely connected to the grounding busbar in both the main and subpanels. Secondly, ground the water line. The metal water piping system should be bonded to the grounding system to ensure that it is at the same potential as other grounded metal components. This bonding helps to prevent electrical shock in the event of a fault. Use a grounding clamp to connect a grounding conductor to the metal water pipe near the point where it enters the building. The grounding conductor should be sized according to the NEC and connected to the grounding bus bar in the main panel. The NEC section 250.104 details the requirements for bonding metal water piping systems. Thirdly, inspect all grounding connections. Check all grounding connections in the main and subpanels to ensure that they are clean, tight, and free from corrosion. Use a wire brush to clean any corroded surfaces and apply an antioxidant compound to prevent future corrosion. Ensure that all grounding screws and terminals are properly tightened to the manufacturer's specifications. Fourthly, verify grounding electrode system. The grounding electrode system, which typically consists of grounding rods or ground plates, should be properly installed and connected to the grounding busbar in the main panel. Inspect the grounding electrodes to ensure that they are in good condition and driven to the required depth. The NEC requires that grounding electrodes have a resistance to ground of 25 ohms or less. If the resistance exceeds this value, additional grounding electrodes may be required. You can test the grounding electrode resistance using a ground resistance tester. Fifthly, check for neutral ground faults. In some cases, a neutral to ground fault can prevent a GFCI from tripping properly. A neutral to ground fault occurs when the neutral conductor comes into contact with a grounded metal component. This can create a parallel path for current flow, which can confuse the GFCI and prevent it from detecting a true ground fault. Use a clamp on ammeter to check for current flow on the grounding conductor. Under normal conditions, there should be no current flowing on the grounding conductor. If you detect current flow, it indicates a potential neutral to ground fault. To locate the fault, systematically disconnect branch circuits and check for current flow on the grounding conductor after each disconnection. Once the fault is located, correct the wiring to eliminate the neutral to ground connection. After addressing the grounding issues, retest the GFCI using the resistor method described earlier. If the GFCI still does not trip, it may be faulty and should be replaced. When replacing a GFCI, ensure that the new GFCI is of the same type and rating as the original. Follow the manufacturer's instructions for installation and wiring. In addition to the above steps, it's also important to consider other potential factors that can affect GFCI performance. These include voltage fluctuations, electromagnetic interference, and environmental conditions. Voltage fluctuations can cause the GFCI to trip unnecessarily or prevent it from tripping when a ground fault occurs. Use a voltage meter to monitor the voltage at the GFCI and ensure that it is within the specified range. Electromagnetic interference from nearby appliances or power lines can also interfere with GFCI operation. Try moving the GFCI away from potential sources of interference or using shielded wiring to minimize the effects of interference. Environmental conditions such as moisture and temperature can also affect GFCI performance. Ensure that the GFCI is installed in a dry, well-ventilated location and that it is protected from extreme temperatures. In summary, troubleshooting GFCI issues requires a systematic approach that includes checking the wiring, testing the GFCI, inspecting the grounding system, and considering other potential factors. By following these steps and addressing any identified issues, you can ensure that your GFCIs are functioning properly and providing the necessary protection against electrical shock. Remember that electrical work can be dangerous, and it's always best to consult with a qualified electrician if you are unsure about any aspect of the troubleshooting process. The fact that the initial inspection passed despite the grounding deficiencies is concerning. It highlights the importance of thorough inspections and the need for inspectors to be vigilant in identifying potential safety hazards. It may be worthwhile to report the issue to the local building department or electrical inspector to ensure that future inspections are conducted more rigorously. Finally, always prioritize safety when working with electricity. Wear appropriate personal protective equipment, such as insulated gloves and safety glasses, and turn off the power to the circuit before working on any electrical components. If you are not comfortable working with electricity, it's best to hire a qualified electrician to perform the necessary repairs. Remember to always consult the latest edition of the NEC and any applicable local codes for specific requirements and guidelines related to electrical installations.